I was born in 1995, so it was interesting reading in your book your takeaways from 9/11, which obviously it's September 16th as of this recording, so this is a really recent kind of time of memory about this. It's amazing to me hearing the impact that 9/11 had on people during that time, especially you were just about college age during that time, listening to the Howard Stern show, you hear about this attack. So you have this rush of patriotism to, I'm going to go defend my country. And you were one of many that signed up to do just that. And I noticed among my peer group, there's a different experience with 9/11, a different interaction point, which is by the time we were of age to even care or understand anything about politics, there was this mood of suspicion of the government. There was a distrust because there was wars that were started on the back of that were, not even in the countries connected to the attacks. And so there's this cynicism. And I think as much as we talk about, the quote unquote boomer crowd supporting Trump or the old white guy, that's angry about his country, I'm seeing a lot of friends of mine who are in their 20s that are, saying, yeah, let's drain the swamp, or this guy is not
Yeah.
like them. He's not a politician. And I think they get left out of these conversations a lot. What would you say to people who find a Trump figure appealing, who find this, the career Democrat politician that's running, they find them distasteful, or they associate the government with really bad stuff? Like, I'm going to be honest, even for me, it's hard to be patriotic at times because it feels like
Mhm.
the system's a mess. It's not looking out for me. Like, what would you say to that person?
Yeah, and it's a great question because, and I think it's pretty typical historically after times of war that there are times of like consternation or things get stirred up and, obviously, the patriotism of that moment wears off and the cost of that moment or bad decisions and things like that. Part of it is, look, again, let's go back to what I was talking about, the incentivization of fear and of the dark arts. It is in my interest, if I'm running for reelection, to run against Washington, D.C., even if I've been in Congress for 10 years. And so what I would do is go home to my district, and I didn't really do a lot of this, but let's say generically a politician, go back to the district and say, everybody in D.C. sucks. They're awful. I'm the only one that's here fighting for you. And reelect me so I can go back and get those SOBs and stop them. Well, now you multiply that by 435 congressional districts. You multiply that by 100 US senators in every presidential election. And eventually, the politicians that we look up to lead us, and we may hate politicians, but ultimately we do look up to them for leadership. And they're reflecting back to us that angst about the government, the fact that the institutions don't work, that everything's terrible, they're the only ones that can save it. And to me, it's a miracle that anybody still has faith in institutions. And honestly, I do, because I think government for, of, and by the people is actually pretty awesome because I lived through it, but it's very flawed and bad things happen. So I think that's part of it. I also think there is a very unique problem among young men right now. Now, this is a very deep conversation, so I'll just touch on the surface of it. So for a while, there was this idea that anything masculine was toxic. Okay. That was wrong. That doesn't really exist anymore. There was kind of a short period, and I guess like around 2016, 2017, whenever that was. That created a lot of anger, I think, in young men that are like, well, what is my role in the world? What is my purpose? And then the problem is we kind of, the pendulum corrected back to what should be a good definition of masculinity, which is, to me, protecting the vulnerable, fighting for people that can't fight for themselves. Because men, look, we are built to be kind of fighters, to go into action. That's why I think so many people commit suicide after war, is because they reach kind of that apex feeling of manhood and always try to chase it for however many years after. That's another deep conversation. But what ends up happening is, Trump comes along, or let's just call it like the influencer right, and start, the Andrew Tates, and they say, look, you can be masculine. Don't listen to them saying you can't be masculine. And here's what masculinity is. It's being a jerk, right? It's punching down. It's going after immigrants. It's going after the border. It's going after women. But women don't have a right to the same things we do. We're men. That's toxic masculinity. And I think part of that's the attraction of Donald Trump to those people specifically, because he acts like he doesn't care what people think. You want to know a little secret? He really cares what people think.
Right.
I know him. He is so concerned with the opinion of others. but his magic power is that he doesn't seem that way. So it's a deep conversation we could do an hour on, but for me, that kind of touches a little of kind of two big issues why the young generation is more susceptible than we ever thought they would be.